Hi guys, so this time I'm going to be making a ball python care video, and by the way, this isn't a ball python. I was just making another care video about red-tailed boas. So this is one of mine, my female Suma, so she's just going to sit here while I talk about some ball pythons real quick. Let's see, I think they're pretty good for beginners. A lot of people recommend them as a first snake. I would generally recommend them as at least like a second, but if you're willing to deal with certain problems, then they're fine really for a first snake. I think they're great because they're very docile and they are a good like small medium-sized snake. They can get like 4 to 5 feet long, but they're not super strong like a red-tailed boa. It's gonna be like 6 feet long, and they aren't super tiny like a sand boa or something like that. If you want something that's a little bit bigger, they come in a lot of great colors, as I'm sure a lot of people know. Their basic care is you want them to have at least 40-gallon wide tank, or like a 4x2 foot enclosure is actually really good for when they're adults, especially when it's a little bit larger one. Basically, you want a under the tank heat mat as they're heating. About 93, 94 degrees is where you want it. They need the belly heat instead of a light bulb because they're nocturnal, so they go out and they get the heat from like rocks or the ground, something like that. And they need to utilize that belly heat to properly digest and thermoregulate. Since they're cold-blooded, if they don't have the proper heat, they'll either choose not to eat and you'll have a malnourished snake, or you will feed them and it'll either be vomited up because they can't digest it properly, or they could have a rot in their stomach and they'll die that way. So it's very important to have proper heat. To measure the heat, you want a digital temperature probe. This is just a little reader and it has a string attached, and it's a few bucks, and the probe on the end just goes on top of the heat mat, and it'll show you what temperature it is. You don't want it too hot because it'll burn them. You don't want it too cold because of what I previously mentioned. So yeah, burnt snake is not what you want. As for this substrate, you want to have something that holds humidity well. I would use cypress mulch, cocoa fiber, peat moss, a mix of all of those, something like that holds everything in, because they're going to have about 50 to 60% humidity, so nothing too high, but you need to have it held in there for them to be able to properly shed their skin so it doesn't get stuck on them, and to not get a respiratory infection. Let's see. Also, you want to have a hide on each side so they can have somewhere safe to go. And you want to have a water bowl that's big enough for their whole body to fit in so they can soak. So nothing just small like you would give to a dog, or something like that. You want to have something that they can roll up in, so it's going to get bigger as they age, and they like to soak in the water, so it's very important for them. It also helps them keep hydrated because they don't just drink water, they actually absorb it through the cloaca. So, what else? The reason that I don't really recommend them as always a first-time snake, although it's not saying that they're bad first-time snakes, is just because they can have problems during either, like males during mating season, or even if they're not mating, or like during winter. A lot of them will just go off feeding. They can even randomly do it throughout the year, and so it's really hard. If, like I said, I don't recommend live ever because animals can get bitten, and like even like Suma here, she has a big bump on her nose because she got bit by a rat and has hypertrophic scar tissue on it now. So it's like a big bump, and luckily she's okay, but animals can get horrible infections and they can obviously get wounded. Bad things can happen. But anyway, if you were feeding live, just say, you're going to end up with a bunch of rats sitting around that you're going to have to feed and take care of and house and stuff like that if your ball pythons go off feeding. And if you have the frozen thawed, you can only refreeze it one time before feeding it to them. So if they don't eat it, you can freeze it. Next week, try again, and if they don't eat, then you gotta like either try to find another snake who you have, or reptile that'll eat it, or just put it outside in the woods for animals to scavenge at. But yeah, so it's a really big annoyance for people because you're losing money doing more work, and it's just frustrating because especially first-time snake owners will be like, why is my snake not eating? Is it not healthy? I have all the proper temperatures, I have the proper housing, what am I doing wrong? When they're not really doing anything wrong, it's just the snakes sometimes go off feeding, so it's just kind of hard for some people to deal with. And let's see, so I don't know, it's just, if you don't want to deal with that, I'd get something like a corn snake, you know, other things like that that don't have that problem, because they can go for a few, you know, few weeks of not going for their food. They can do it for months. I've heard of them doing it for like 2 years, some of them, which is crazy. But yeah, some of them just go off of it for months, and that's not too weird of a thing. So it's something like that not everyone wants to deal with, and it's something that beginners don't always have the easiest time dealing with. If you do have problems with them eating, what I recommend, which is the same that I would recommend when you're also switching one that happened to be being fed live from a previous owner over to frozen thawed, you want to put them, first try warming up extra warm. So once you have it in the warm water to thaw out, you, which you put in a bag first, you put it in a bag and then you put that in warm water. You put hot water in at the end after it's thawed through and get it extra warm. This replicates a like live body type feeling for them, and they'll be more likely to eat it. You wiggle it around a lot on tongs, and generally I also would not feed in the cage because it's just not really healthy for them to ingest substrate. It could cause impaction problems, so I would just get a bin. And a bin is good because if you get a small bin, depending on the size that they are, like maybe 12 quart, maybe like 15 quart bin or smaller, if they're you know, smaller obviously, but get something they can like half fit into and just like have the other half empty, so it's like a nice tight space. Put the top on it, keep it dark if they don't eat and go for the rat that's or we'll do this anyways, but if they don't eat the rat, then you just put it in there and close the top and like put a towel over it so that it's dark, and they'll feel more safe. And if they're in there for too long, you can also put a little heat mat with the thermostat on it. Sorry. You can also put the heat mat with a thermostat, which will regulate the temperature because you don't want the heat mat overheating, just like you don't want it in the cage. You put it under the part of the bin, just like a little bit, so that it stays warm in there around 92, 93 degrees. And this can, you know, get them more likely to eat as well. So there's other tricks too. I mean, if you're really having problems, you could try dipping it in like beef broth, I've heard. You can cut it open a little bit so there's like guts coming out, and they'll be more likely. There's just different tricks like that, but yeah, I mean, that's a problem of them not eating sometimes. So but I mean, they're really docile usually. I like how they just sit with you, and they're not super strong or huge. They don't need huge caging requirements. They don't need any UV lighting, which I would not give to them because they're nocturnal. So I'd say they're a pretty good pet, and you just gotta make sure that you know, give them what they need, and if you do, then you'll have like, you know, a nice, happy, healthy snake. They're generally not too bitey or anything like that. I mean, they can bite you, but especially if you have like a little bit of a nervous baby, they'll calm down as they age. You know, if you're looking at one, just be prepared for a long time commitment, just like any other animal. They can live like 20 years or so. I don't know, I think that's about it. If I didn't already mention, I think, you know, just feed them once every 7 days of a properly sized prey item. You want them to be on rats and not mice forever because they're going to have more nutrition and calcium from rats. Don't feed something bigger than the width of their body. And I think that's about it. If I missed anything, which I'm sure I probably like could say a lot more, you know, when you have questions, feel free to message me or like comment down below. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Keep an eye out for more of my animal videos, care videos that I've been making. You know, subscribe so that you can be alerted of when they're up. And as always, thanks for watching again.